All right.
Good evening. I'm Eileen Ullman, and I'm the director of the JCC Chicago Jewish Film Festival. And this evening, it is my sincere pleasure to have with us Daniel Poliner and Saul Miranda. Daniel is the filmmaker, and Saul is the lead actress and co-producer of the film, Come Find Me. And we're just delighted to welcome you both from New York and to hear from you about this very interesting film. So let me just start and say, Saul and Daniel, how did you come together? Like, how did you start working together?
Do you want to start or should I start, Saul?
You should.
Okay, sure. My first feature film I made about 10 years ago when my wife was pregnant with my daughter, who's over here. Soul, I met Soul at the audition and immediately was like, holy shit, like, holy cow. She played a more supporting role in that film, and pretty much right away, I think we hit it off personally. And also I was just like, I couldn't believe how talented she was. And so from there, we did a couple other projects. I did a pilot for NBC called the Bar Mitzvah Club that sadly did not go to series, but Soul was in that. And that was the whole genesis of this project, was that I called Soul a handful of years ago and just said, I have an idea that I don't even know that I entirely had the idea for the story. I was just like, can I write something for you that's going to be the main part? I think that's how it started. And we talked loosely about it. And we had a lot of conversations, and that's where it began. And honestly, it evolved from there. But yeah, so it was written for Soul. The whole film was created just to have a vehicle for her and for her talent. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say after that? Yeah, no, it was wonderful when I auditioned for Daniel for his first feature, Jack, Jules, Esther, and Me. My son had just graduated from kindergarten, right? And so Daniel has a wonderful, sneaky way to get into those emotions, in his dialogue. And I just really was very moved by his writing at that first audition. And, and of course, very honored that he cast me, and we are friends, we're partners, collaborators now. And when he said, actually, when we finished Jack, Jules, Esther, and Me, he said, I'm going to write something for you. And of course, in this business, it's like, okay, sure. And he did. Like, it was like, you email me. I mean, we stayed in touch, but then you email me with the initial conversation, 5-6 years after that, after Jack, Jules, with the other projects in between. And it just, the material, the play just floored me. And I even believe that Daniel is a little psychic, because the character who plays, the name of the character who is my, husband, deceased husband in the movie, his name is Victor. That's my dad's name. No longer with us. And actually, then you have Victoria Cartagena, Victor, Victoria, and then she actually, her dad's name is Victor. And my my late godmother's name is Gloria. And then we went back and forth. I've been very, Daniel has been very kind and welcoming of all of us, especially during production. But before that, just back and forth with details about the story, what's flying, what's not flying. Very little was not. But you see, the second part of the film, the glorious part of the story,
right,
that was supposed to be, if I may say, then a short.
Yeah.
A short that became too long.
Mhm.
And then Daniel was very smart to say this needs to be a feature. And I agreed 100%. And then he came up with the first part a year later. And
Yeah.
then we became a feature.
Yeah.
So,
So, yeah, go
so in
ahead.
actuality, the Gloria part was it was written the other way.
So the
Mhm.
Gloria part was written actually right before my son was born. I have two kids, and both like both feature films have happened right before one of my kids was born. And that we shot in 2017 in August, I think, of 2017.
Yes.
And we did the reshoots with Tova at the end of 2017. And then as I was editing that, I was like, whoops, can you flip the light back on, honey? I remember sitting with my editor and watching, honestly, I was watching you, watching Vicky and the Hoopa circling around you. And I was sitting there crying and being like, this thing is like impacting me. And I can't get it out of my mind that this is a story about the two of you. You know what I mean? And I remember talking to Sol not long after that. And Sol is the one who was just like, well, then go do that. Do the story about Vicky and let it be its own thing. And I think that was written in like 2018 or 19 was so this was shot over the course of 3 or 4 years, sorry about that. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of a wacky thing in that it's a complete film, but actually we broke it out over a few different years. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fascinating to me. That is just fascinating to me. So the whole piece about Christina marrying Bobby, who's Jewish, and the that was all part of the original.
Yeah,
and
that was
and the build out of Christina and her relationship with her mother and actually her relationship, just trying to figure out who she was, because she's never seen herself reflected anywhere. Like, whether it was the caretaker who spoke only Polish and she didn't speak Polish, and then at school and at work. And I mean, the only time she ever saw herself reflected was in her relationship with Miranda, not Miranda, with Marisol, right?
Yeah. So that was all, it's interesting because I don't, that was all 2 years later, when we sat and wrote that. And I think honestly, seeing Sol and Vicky together and seeing the dynamic of their relationship, and honestly, my composer had already started writing music for Sol's piece. And so I was sitting there writing it with the music already going for what became the second half of the movie, and I knew that we were going to keep exploring those issues, and that I basically was saying the same thing that you're saying, is like, well, who is she? And I sat with Vicky and just said, are you okay with us? Like, are you okay with us expanding this into having it be your character? And I remember I talked to Sol a few times about it, and I just kept saying to myself, like, well, she's somebody who lives in California. She's an attorney. She's marrying someone Jewish. But what can we do? What can we do that's going to be a story that's going to tell us about who she is, and also highlights the relationship between the two of them and brings them together? And I knew that it was going to have to be about a trip, and like that was the initial thing. I was like, I know she comes to New York and doesn't want to tell her mom that she's there. Like, and she has a lot of things that she didn't want to tell her mom about. And that was where I was like, oh, Jesus, like, this is like me too. And it's like everybody,
Yeah, it's very igniting. The intersection of both cultures is very igniting, and it's very it moves, it really moves at a deeper level, their relationship. If we have some mother-daughter really, kind of clashing throughout the years, the mother that pushes, the kid that resists, but also on top of that, the ethnicity, the overwhelming feeling of not belonging, the invisibility. And these are, they are educated, hardworking people, but still it's just like I'm not there, she's not there.
Uh-huh.
And when Christina is going to get married, and then Gloria feels that her culture is not included at
Right.
all. You're telling me you're going to, you told me that you were going to have a priest here besides a rabbi. Well, there's no priest. That guy, that's no,
Right.
And I think it's just adding fire to this. I mean, they love each other, but the obstacles that come in between them, the inertia, the lack of clear communication,
Yes.
and the fear to confront that, and above all, how there is so much love. And I don't think that many of our relationships through life, have any kind of closure. It's just a work in progress. And I think that's, for me, it's what moves me deeply about the film, and Daniel's writing. I think across the board, it's more about those questions that not necessarily will be answered, but are an invitation to reflect, and also to be moved by it, to identify, to see yourself regardless of the culture. But of course, when Bobby comes into the picture, it's like, you are doing what people have done to us.
Right.
Yeah.
We have been invisible, and now here's your wedding, and the only thing I get to do is a wedding toast. What the hell?
You get to hold the stick. You get to hold the
And then
stick,
you
and I'm
don't
like-
meet me. You don't, we're trying, I want to call you, I want to talk to you, and you don't show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks,
So-
Dan. And no, I am not related to Lin-Manuel Miranda, that I know. I saw in the chat a question.
So can I ask you about the multiplicity of stories, which I found fascinating.
Sure.
So like the toast,
Yeah.
like the toast, like, was it the toast was it the toast that your character actually made? The toast that she wished she could have made? Like, how, because the multiplicity of stories was a theme throughout the film that I really, I was fascinated by it. I almost felt like I watched 3 different movies.
Mm-hmm.
When I put it all together. So where did that idea come from?
Well, I can start with it. I mean, I think for me, well, that saying that one thing one thing happens and you remember something else, and depending on, when you think about pivotal moments in your life, it really depends on where you are in your, where you are personally at that moment in terms of how you're going to remember that, and I think for Gloria, that was my take, Soul, is it's just there is one version of it where she manages to get through it. And there's another version where those are her feelings, that maybe that's what,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe, I mean, I just think that that's really kind of how I've experienced life, is that half the time we manage to keep it together, and the other half of the time what we're feeling inside is a lot more, it can be buoyant at times, but it can also be a little bit more rocky, right? Right. And I think, and so that was my own, I think that that's always been something I've been interested in exploring. And we certainly went down that road quite a bit with different memories and flashbacks. And you see that theme as well with the conversation with Victor, with her husband.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, it's interesting that I set out to write a story for Soul Miranda, and there's a lot of my own personal, history with it. But I think that sometimes I mean, my own take, and then I'm I think Victor's the love of her life and she loves him. And I think down deep, she's also suspicious that he had an affair with someone, and that's life. You know what I mean? And she's also devastated when he passes away. And we all have imperfect relationships that are, and she says at the toast, like, we have so many beautiful memories and you can't hold on to all of them, but it's also, there's also difficult moments too, you know? And so that was all that I was trying to explore with that. And, you know, is that similar to what you felt about a soul?
Yeah, love is messy. And I mean, we mess it up. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree 100%. And I think that what I see in both stories is the ability to just peel the layers, right? And I think through Tova's character, she actually, for me, in the scenes that we have together, was the catalyst to open up, to show me it's okay, this is what you're going through.
Right.
Yes, I gave you a little extra, a few extra drugs, but yes, you are at that precipice where stuff not so nice and very, very nice will happen. Like she says, the tumor is benign, it will be okay. So that was an opening for accept the layers and going into, you know, that internal journey that I think through Dan's writing he allows to justify it, to be shared with you guys, instead of just like, oh, we don't know what's going on, that's a nice take of a very nice piece of acting, very whatever, quiet shot or a close-up, but he did it in his writing as well. But for me, yeah, Tova was the with her characters mystic, you know, talents, you know, the opportunity to surrender. That's a scene about surrendering, I feel, and to accept, because then after that, you know, yes, there are other moments that Dan shows in both stories, the unraveling, right? The unraveling, the unraveling in order to face our own revelations, right? And that it's okay. The trauma and the beautiful events of one's life. And I think when one of my favorite movies, For Weddings and a Funeral, you know,
Yes.
the shit hits the fan.
Yes,
In those moments,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So nothing like a wedding, and then on top of it, a retirement as well. And then the
Right.
doctor says,
Right.
let's take a biopsy. You know, it's just wonderful triggers to go into that journey.
They were all at stressful moments. I mean,
Yes, yes,
you know, Tova's husband is with this young
Right.
yeah,
Tootsie, and you could see the pain that
yeah,
she was feeling about it, and you know, even Virginia, Christina, like it looked to me like Christina was pregnant at the point at which she was getting married,
mhm,
and so all like, you know, each one of you was at a very stressful time in your life.
yeah. The possibility of Christina, you know, being pregnant, well, probably having to quit her job to find another one in New Jersey, and yeah, very scary.
That's, I was going to ask you. So at the point at which she's getting married, because Christina leaves, you know, she's supposed to go to, I think, Cleveland, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And we
The
don't know
story
what
skips
happened.
forward. It does skip forward 2 years, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
So you do wonder, what did Christina do? Did she get on the
yeah.
plane and go to Cleveland?
I think she followed her mom's advice. Her mom said, you got to go. You have to go to Cleveland and you have to do this right. And you can't, I mean, my own take, and I mean, it's funny because I like the ending was debated and debated and debated. And like my wife and I like, hope she's putting my son to sleep, but maybe she'll come over and say hi at some point. But at a certain point, I was just like, what is the ending? And the ending is that this whole story is about somebody who can't figure out what she wants to say to herself. She's trying to type these messages to herself, and the best that she can write is hello, or what are they thinking? What do they want? Or the last time you see her, she's got nothing at all. And then it's her mom that is able to say, okay, now you know what you don't want, but but you've got to, my take is that Vicky is probably, or Christina is probably has a better job now where she's happier, I feel like when Gloria sends her off in the car at the end of part 1, and there's like light shining in on Vicky, my hope was that we were, that we were sending her off in a better place emotionally. And so she could very well be pregnant at the beginning of part 2, and maybe she hasn't told Gloria yet, but from my perspective, she's made a decision to marry Bobby. I mean, he says to her at the end of part 1, like, I want to talk to you if that's what you want,
Right.
And so I think if she's made a decision 2 years later to marry him, I think she's come to a point as a person where she's ready to make choices. And that was at least my hope for her,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I wonder if other people like had the same, like, to me, I thought to myself, so she's chosen to marry Bobby and to get married in a totally Jewish setting under a chuppah, no, like you said, no priest, just the rabbi. She's circling him, which not everybody circles. Like it's it's not at every Jewish wedding that we circle. We break glasses maybe, but we don't always circle. But she's like bought into the whole picture.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that was in keeping with who she was. Like she's never seen herself, like I said, reflected in any place that she's been. And so I felt like it in this way too. She was very much who she is. Like, she accepted it. Just like she took the woman's hand, the Polish woman's hand, walked out of the school when her mother said, no, this is not a school for you. And so, I felt like when she bought into this marriage, and I just felt like, okay, this is very much her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was how you meant it, but that was my takeaway.
Well, I felt that Christina not meeting her mom at the hotel is an act of defiance.
Yeah.
Quietly, in her own way.
Or being overwhelmed.
Well, yes, there's overwhelming. Therefore, let me not deal with that fire over there in the corner. Who is my mother. I think it's also, if I read it also as a way, she's standing her ground. It is her wedding. And yes, it hurts that I wasn't a part of the making of. I mean, in the archetypical Latina mom, Puerto Rican mom, and I'm sure there are similarities with the archetypical, Jewish mom and Italian moms, etc. Where we are very strong with our opinions and how things should be done. And I think this is Christina, saying, no, it's going to be this way. And I'm going to go all the way in, and it's going to celebrate this. It's like an intersection of her culture and meeting Bobby's culture, as a Jewish man and his family, and I got to accept it. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it also what adds to the unraveling, the same with the circling, right? The unraveling, it brings me connection with the I kind of said it before, but it's almost like what hers is not being included again. It's feeling neglected, and the idea is, I work so hard, I give you so much. Yes, I may not be I drove you away many times, but we do it. We are pioneers. We work hard, and damn it, you go, you do it. We don't quit. And it's not easy. I have a daughter who's 20 and is in college in her junior year, and I can see that mom coming through. No, we don't. You just keep fighting. And I think those instincts soften as we get older with the younger kids in the family, right? I came 7 years after my siblings. Oh, my parents were very strict, very tough with them. And I was like, who are you? 8 years later. My sister was chaperoned. I was never chaperoned, right? So,
and Christina's an only child, so there's
yeah. And Gloria she's a strong woman. I mean, you see that in the school, how she handles things in the school, and her relationship with her assistant principal. If that's the assistant, I mean, that's how I read that relationship, that man's role being. And when he gets up on the stage and he talks about how he shrunk after and you can see he is shrunk, and he's like,
I know,
she was a strong woman in her own, like in her space. She's strong.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so hard for her with her daughter.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's, she's a tough cookie. She's a tough love kind of cookie. And this journey, she cannot fight it. At some point she has to surrender and be vulnerable and open up. Too many life-changing events are happening.
Right.
You can't keep, just blocking, the need to ask for love, to be loved and love back, and have those conversations and be gentler,
Yeah, it was a very powerful film, very powerful. Can I ask you about the music? So I often ask filmmakers this. In part, that's why I watch a film 3 times. The last time I really focused on things like the music.
Yeah.
It's often subliminal, but we don't even understand what it's doing to us as we're watching a film. So, and you mentioned something about a composer. So you composed original music for the.
No, I did not.
You did not, but you had it composed.
Alex Weston, who's an amazing composer. I really lucked out because I met him on my previous short film, and I think this movie also really resonated with him. He's also he's Jewish. Actually, his fiance is not Jewish as well. So it's there's a lot of that resonated for him. And I think from the beginning, honestly, it was always Soul's performance that resonated with him. He did the music for The Farewell, which is another fantastic movie with a wedding and with some real sad feelings in it as well. And yeah, I think that Alex, it's funny, he used to yell at me because he would send me things and I would say, I don't like that, I don't like that. And then I came to his office and he had, he had a whole sound system up, and he had the picture. It was the scene with Gloria and the young Christina when she says, you have to leave. And he was like, just listen to it here. And I started crying, and he was like, what do you, and he was like, I'm done with you listening to this on on a laptop, and he actually gave me these headphones. He was like, you need to have better headphones. But his work, I think his writing, his music really informed the front half of the movie, because I sat there listening to the Gloria and Christina theme as I was writing it, and I told him that, and I was like, so I think if anything, the front half of the movie he went in to score that was very quick. I mean, when I was like, what's the opening theme of the thing going to be? I think it was same day he sent it back, and I was like, yep, that's it. Like, because he knew he had the keys. I mean, he just had it, that story, those characters beautifully set, Yeah, it was amazing.
Also composed for the novice.
Right. That felt the short, it was just nominated for an Independent Spirit Award for best film. So yeah, I mean, he's amazing. And he used to work as Philip Glass's arranger. So he's, for a young man, he's like, I don't even think he's 35 yet. He's very young, and maybe he's like 32, I think. So yeah, I think the music really, really helps this film and lifts it. And I think he understood, like, we sat, I mean, part of it was also that the two of us would sit there. I mean, the theater scene, he's such a mensch too, because the theater scene between Soul and Ryan, I don't know if I told you this, Soul, it was like, I said no to so many different options. And then he finally was like, you have to come in and sit with me. And he would watch my face. He would like play the keyboard and watch my face. And he was like, all right. And like, he literally put the whole thing together just by like watching how I was reacting. And I would say, like, I would yell out feelings, and he would be able to immediately, translate that into what he was composing. So it's a beautiful collaboration, and I'm looking forward to, our next projects working together. So
yeah, you did. I mean, he did a great job. You did a great job picking out somebody to write the music. It was, I really felt like I think the music is so important to a film. And I think often, like, it's just, people don't even think about it, but once you do, you realize what an impact it makes.
Yeah.
So, great job with that. There are some questions. So why did you not have Tova address the fact that her son was marrying somebody who wasn't Jewish? Like, Tova's character seemed perfectly fine with it.
It's a really good question. I think the answer is that I think that Tova makes a pretty funny joke about it in the movie that she ad-libbed, where she was like, what did she say? She was like, it's great for her gene.
You're going to improve the gene pool.
Yeah.
That was Tova's line.
That's improvised.
Yeah, that was improvised.
Really?
Yeah, that was definitely not in the script. And I remember my DP like leaned over to me and he was like, should I be lighting her for that line? Because I didn't light her for that line. And I was like, it's fine. And I was like, I don't know if we're going to include that. And then of course we did include it, I think I can only tell you what I was thinking when I wrote it, which was that I was thinking that she made her peace with that. It's funny because Tova and I spoke about, she talked to me about I think she has a few children and what she was thinking about in terms of her children marrying non-Jews. But I think that for whatever it was worth, I felt like her character had made peace with that, but had her own. I just always felt like that there was a character, that she was a character who was really sad and aching and had this, on the one hand, his wife was, her ex-husband was on to his, like, probably his third wife or fourth wife, and does look like she was like 15 or whatever. And I think on the other hand, that thing about the stone, I just feel like that's a really personal thing. And it's like you have no one to share it with. There's just that opportunity for two people to connect. And I think, Gloria may not have wanted to hear it in the moment, but in some ways she needed to, and Tova needed someone to talk to about it. I mean, it's just like, she's gone through a lot of trauma. She'd been through cancer. She had learned about this whole other trauma of her family on her wedding night. And it was a significant night for her. And it's a real bittersweet thing. Her mom's no longer here. And, I think of so many times in these big, important events, it's like, it's so much of it is about who's not there. You know what I mean? Who you're missing.
Absolutely. Who's not in the room.
Yeah.
I just think she needed to talk to someone about it, and honestly, there's also a kindness to the way that Tova played it that I think
Yeah.
was really graceful, and like, that was really her push with me. It was to be that character could have been more outlandish, and she brought it home with warmth,
Mhm.
and a real connection, I think, to Gloria,
Yeah.
Absolutely. We had shown a film with Tova. We showed the one woman play that she did about Golda Meir,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and hard and powerful, and
Yeah.
and so this was a totally different side that she played in this film. And I it like that made me cry, like the way that she spoke, with Gloria. And, she also, there were so many layers to relationships. She had a relationship with the grandmother who's, who survived the Holocaust, and her mother, who then, started a new tradition and gave her, the necklace. And now she's going to have this relationship with her daughter-in-law.
Mhm.
And there were so many layers to the relationships. I guess not my last, but my second to my last question is the light.
Mhm.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
to you, what is the light? Because I could, I
Right.
I struggled with that. I thought, is it your like inner compass? Is it, who you are? Is it like like, what was that? Because you know, um, uh, Christina sees the light comes out when she goes outside that night, and she's all upset, and she goes to run. Her mother sees the light when she's outside waiting for
Yeah.
Christina to come. So what is the light? And she
I
also
mean,
sees the light when her mother, right? When her in the bedroom,
when her
when
mom is
she
there.
thinks her
Yeah.
mom is there.
It's
Yeah.
something Sol and I talked about a lot, and I honestly think Sol guided the process toward the end of like, it was one of the few things that when you were like, look, in terms of writing this thing for Christina, it's about them, and you were like, it's about light. So it was like the guiding principle of, okay. And I think I can tell you what I thought, and then Sol can also talk about that. I mean, I think for me, I felt like with Christina's character in particular, she talks about that light blaring. She talks about it with her client as well, is that when she was younger, it blared on her and she was scared and like embarrassed and wanted it to go away. And then she missed it, and it came back, and I think the intention that I was trying to say, and it's kind of a little indirect, but it was like, look, she got pregnant when she was younger and she didn't know who she could tell, and she was terrified, and her mom was on the other side of the door banging on the door. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I think that was what I was thinking about all the time with the light, is like, here she like, and I think, Gloria's mom says it to her. She's like, I'm, you're my light, and like that there is, take my love with you wherever you get. Like that was the friction of these characters, is that Gloria's love is like beating massively, like for Christina. And in these moments where you want that person or you need some kind of comfort, sometimes you just can't get yourself to understand like that you need to connect. You know what I mean? And it's like, so it was this thing that was blaring for her when she was out jogging, is that she needs to connect, like she needs, and it's also like, she's not alone, you know what I mean? And yet that was at least what I was trying for, was that she was a little overwhelmed, and what was her instinct? It was like, I'm not even in New York. It was like the last thing she wanted to do is tell her mom where she was. And it obviously the thing that she most needed, and the person who could guide her out of this real morass for her, is her mom,
Right.
And I think that was the same idea at the end of the second part with her grandmother, with her mom, with Gloria's mom, is that like, like her mom, like that was my takeaway, is it's just like, remember how much your mom loves you, and she said, I told you there was going to be good days and not so good days. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
Welcome to life.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's really it's about the love, in the end. It's really what drives us, what moves us, and just like the necklace is much more tangible of this dimension, symbol of passing on. Let me pass the love to you.
Right.
You remember, in remembrance of the legacy, right? I
Right.
think the light is the same. We just didn't do the necklace,
Right.
because the connections with, you know, our ancestors are not broken,
Right.
and unfortunately, maybe not all of us have all the paper trail to go as back, 100 or 200 years. But it is not broken. I still hear stories before my dad passed away, and me as an adult woman, where he was able to share with me about his family, his side of the family, where we have Afro-Caribbean, the Afro-Caribbean side of the families through my dad, and many dramatic, like 100 or 100 years of solitude type of, dramas, from that side of the family. So yeah, it's just passing. It's just like, for some of us, is oral history.
Right.
I think that light is that love and connection that it just transcends us. That's why, yeah, it's necessary to talk about the light, because what is this, a supernatural thing,
Right.
because we're not used to see it at that magical level as much. Other directors have done those things, and I think it's just wonderful how whatever you take from the light, that my feeling is that the people who have seen the movie, they really suspend their disbelief to
Mhm.
accept it.
Right.
I cannot understand it at this earthly, earthly dimension, but there
Right.
is a connection,
Right.
just like, again, just like the necklace, which is something we can actually see,
Tangible. Yeah.
tangible. Yeah. So I think it was an interesting parallel. I cannot tell you that I saw that going on while we were shooting the film, because we were shooting the film Fast and Furious. It's an independent film after all,
Right. Yeah. You have to get it done within a certain
Yeah.
amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think between part 1 and part 2, maybe just in a span of 2 years, it was just 2 weeks. And then, of course, Dan working so hard during the post,
Like the
production.
editing piece of it.
Oof. So yeah, filming is so hard. It's not a piece of cake. But yeah, that's what watching the film more afterwards. I was like, oh my God, the light of the necklace. It's like the intangible and the tangible connections, these parallels for me. They're both about connecting, adding to the generation, adding to that connector, adding to the love. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I really like that. Thank you. That clarifies it for me. Thank you. So are you going to make another movie?
Yeah, well, we wrote a short film together that we're going to shoot. Knock on wood, we're going to shoot in June. So yeah, that will be, knock on wood, will be next. If everything lines up to do that.
Okay.
And we'll see from there. Yeah, definitely need to get on and do another feature film. Yeah.
I hope you'll let us know when you do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We really love this film, and we're so grateful to you for joining us this evening.
Thank you
guys
so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. It really, the post-film conversation, having this opportunity to meet you both and to really understand from your perspectives, what the film is about and your message, it's invaluable. So thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for hosting the film and sharing it with the community. We really appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
our pleasure.
Been
It
a
was
pleasure.
really our pleasure. Thank you.
thank you.
And thank you for all of you who are here. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. You have a wonderful evening. Be well.
You too.
You too.
Okay. And we'll watch for your next movie.
Yay.
Great.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you.